Hey everybody, Zach here for another edition of the Friday Fishing Report for Pacific Angler. We got another tutorial for you this week. Jordan and I went up to the Cane Valley last week and we found some nice fish up that way. My chironomids seemed to be the ticket of the day. So Jordan was getting a lot on some gunmetal-y kind of stuff. I tried that, had no luck. I put on this guy, which I tied up a couple nights before. And as you can see, this thing just got destroyed. So that's just to give you an idea of what kind of goes on with these things. You start hooking fish on them and the fish can't resist and they're turned on to one thing and away you go, you're off to the races. So we caught a couple fish early on in the day and we found some, we did some stomach pumps on these fish and found that they were full of chromies and there was no rhyme or reason to the color that they were taking. So everything was silver with olive, red, brown, like black, like you name it. There was every single color under the sun in these things. There's even some darker chironomids as well, but the most prevalent ones were the chromies. So I kind of matched up what the size was, and it turns out it was like a size 16 long hook. So this is a 16. If you were to compare this into the curved scuddy kind of world, it would be more like a size 14. And this was the one that they were smashing for me anyway. My biggest fish of the day on this trip was about 24 inches, roughly in that 4-pound range. So it's pretty crazy to see some big fish like that take these little tiny flies. So let's pop this guy out of the vise. You can see there's some good bend into this guy. I retired it and put on a new one, continued to catch fish on that pattern. So let's pop a new one in the vise here. So like I said, this is a size 16. These are pretty tiny. I will go one size smaller with these curved hooks down into the 18 world, but this is about pretty much as small as I like to go. So I'm going to tie my gills first, and I'm just going to take some wraps with some UTC 70 in black here. And I have a black, I think it's a 5/64 bead here, so super tiny bead. I find if you go too big on the beads, your chironomids will start to get too bulky. So to keep that profile nice and thin, we go with a smaller bead. I've just got some white yarn here as my gill material. You can use whatever you like. I like this stuff here. It does pretty good. Just a couple wraps. You don't overdo the wraps or else that bead's not going to seat nicely. And a couple wraps in front to really secure it in place. And I'm just going to go right into a whip finish here. Just 3 turns. Nothing crazy. I'm going to trim away that thread. And then I'm going to come in here and trim this gill, the butt section, nice and tight, and keep that for another fly. If I did my job right, that guy fits perfectly like so. Don't mind if this is a little bit long. I'll take care of that later on. Now my main body color on this fly is olive, so this is some ultra thread in 70 denier in olive. I like the ultra thread for chironomids because it keeps them nice and thin, and the thread lays extremely flat. So I'm just going to start my thread there. And to make my thread nice and flat, I'm just going to give it a counterclockwise spin. Just let it rotate there. And eventually, it'll keep it nice and flat. For my rib, I'm going to use some brown. This will be about an extra small wire here. As you can see, that kind of counterclockwise spinning has flattened out my thread. And I'm just going to do touching turns all the way down. And if I notice my thread starts to cord up a little bit, give another counterclockwise spin and keep it nice and flat. That'll give some nice even coverage to the color on this guy, making that hook shank all nice and olive. You can see how flat that's getting there. That's what we want. One more turn here. And the chromie portion of this fly is going to be some silver flashabou. I find when you're tying really small flies like this, the flashabou is a little bit thinner than your small holographic tinsel or small mylar tinsel. So this gives you a nice, good segmentation. Keeps the numbers in that 7 to 9 wrap range, which is what we want. And I'm just going to do touching turns all the way up the hook shank here. Again, keeping that profile nice and slim, kind of like so. So there's really not much to this fly, but as you can see, that taper is very slim on this guy. I'm just going to give this a counterclockwise spin again. I'm going to go back down the shank a little bit here, about 2/3 of the way down, and then we're going to come back up Give it another counterclockwise spin. I'm going to go down about a third here, like so. And I'm going to go into a little wet finish here, right behind the bead. Really conserve your thread wraps. You don't want to go too many because it creates a little bit too much bulk. And now for the little wing buds on this guy, I've got some burnt orange thread here, again in the 70 denier. I'm just going to take a couple turns right behind the bead here, just to kind of lock it in place. And I'm going to start by ribbing the fly with my silver Flashabou. I'm going to try to get 7 to 9 turns up the hook shank here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, kind of 8, which is fine. Just take 2 turns behind and 1 wrap in front to secure that in place. Come in there and trim that nice and close. And then I like to take about 3 wraps with my wire. This just helps to protect everything at the back end there. And then I'm going to come up and rib in front of my silver tinsel all the way up hook shank here. I think the key for this fly was that I had multiple colors in it, which was kind of nice. So it kind of matched just about everything that was in the water. I would almost be tempted to tie this again with a red kind of double rib on this one. Then I got the olive, the brown, the red, kind of everything in here. And just like so, come in here. 1, 2 wraps and 1, 2 wraps in front. I'm just gonna bend this wire back and forth. Eventually it breaks off nice and flush. And we go right into a whip finish. 4 turns, gonna tidy that up. That's gonna imitate the wing buds on there. This is the part where I usually like to trim my gills. So I just pull them back, put my scissors right at the back of the bead there. If I can get it to sit still there. You give them a trim like that. That kind of does the trick. Sometimes if I have a little thread nub there, I'll just hit it with a lighter quick. Helps to just kind of shrink all that up and smooth out the taper. And I like to coat my flies, and this one's going to be done with some brushable super glue. So zap a gap with the brush. And usually I'll do 2 coats with this stuff. And you've heard me mention it before. I do like the Solaris bone dry as well, but I find when you have a thread base for your fly, Solaris darkens it up quite a bit. So there you have it. My winning ticket chironomid from the other day. Size 16, brown olive Chromie. Pretty wicked fly, and you should definitely have some in your box. Thanks for checking it out, and we'll see you guys next week.